I want to share something with you all today of a app that I created with Claude Code, which essentially summarizes long form macroeconomic, financial markets, and also other kind of videos that are in long form that I want to understand what they're talking about, but also translate it into a way that's clear for me. So what I did was I essentially created a custom application that summarizes long form YouTube content. So for example, what I want to share today is the last video I watched on
Nothing in this
from
program should be
Pay
considered.
Prosperity with Chris Martinson and Paul Kiker. And essentially what I did is this is a 40-minute video. And I put it into my app and allowed it to essentially create the summary of what this whole video is about. So this briefing is like, for example, it talks about like the big picture. America is quietly drowning in debt, 40 trillion counting, while the government, big tech, and foreign nations all compete for the shrinking pool of borrowed money. Meanwhile, Japan's financial system is cracking under the pressure of a weakening currency and rising interest rate, forcing unprecedented U.S. interventions to prevent a global financial chain reaction. China watches all this, is calmly stacking gold and quietly positioning the yuan, potentially setting up the biggest currency shift in a generation. So essentially it talks about the key points right here. And for example, the U.S. debt train has no brakes, AI versus Uncle Sam, a fight for the same money, and Social Security, the quiet crisis beginning now. And what I also did was I simplified things into analogies, which for me is easy to understand. So for example, the US debt train has no brakes. Simplifying this analogy is, imagine your household earns $50,000 a year, but spends $90,000 every year you just borrow the difference on a credit card. Now imagine doing that for decades. That's America right now. And it gives all these analogies so that I'm able to understand them in simple language that like the average person can understand. Another thing what I did was I kind of create almost like a forecast, like weather report. So like the way I see it is all this information is great, but how does it actually impact the average person? Just like, for example, a meteorologist could tell you all the things about like atmospheric pressure, as well as humidity levels, where the wind is blowing, etc., etc. But how does that actually translate to the average person? So that's kind of what I did was use it like a weather forecast. Like for example, in the short term, partially cloud with interventional fog, and medium term and long term. So all of this is just essentially kind of like a weather report style of being able to, based on this video, what are the probabilities of these certain things happening? And then what does it mean for the average Joe and Jane, which is like the most important part. It's like all this information is great, but how does it actually translate into kind of what you do? Similar to, it could be, let's say, is the weather report is that is going to be, since right now I'm in Austin, Texas, is going to be 96 degrees today. What does that mean? Oh, it means that it's going to be very warm. Don't wear long sleeve, drink plenty of water, and try to keep cool. So that's kind of what it talks about, but like for like a financial sense. And then the like contrarian. So essentially, what it is on the other side of the coin, what like mainstream economists would say. But also, what does the people in the video talks about the contrarian tools as well. And then also, the thing I also like the most is using historical parallels, because I really like history and just kind of understanding like based on this, where else has played out in the past. So it's like being able to understand history to be able to predict the future. Just like for example, that in every December in Chicago, the weather's more or less the same. So it always happens. So that way, this year or the next year in December, you can kind of approximate what the temperature would be, but more importantly, what are you going to do in that kind of weather? And then also like the psychology behind it. So it always bails out. Kind of like the psychology, like, so I'm basically mapping this to like human behavior of why people behave the way that they behave. And then lastly, kind of like quotes in here that are memorable, that stands out. And the last thing what I did was this is to create kind of like a global financial system like that. I actually found a diagram in Zero Hedge and essentially I plugged it into Claude and just asked it, what are they talking about in this video that talks about the whole global financial system? So yeah, this wanted to show this with everybody because I thought it's pretty cool. Like I was able to build all this out just using Claude Code and Claude Cowork, of being able to summarize long form YouTube videos, but putting it in a way that I'm able to understand it. Because as much as I understand and am fascinated with a lot of these content, for me sometimes it gets really complicated. So I need to have it translated into something that I'm able to actually understand and more importantly be able to take action on. So I wanted to create this video and share this with everybody of like this app that I created, and also being able to let people know that now with AI and Claude, you can pretty much create something similar, but it could also be in something that you are particularly passionate in, so that it doesn't have to be macroeconomics, it doesn't have to be the things I'm interested in. It could be whatever topics you're interested in, and you could create a similar kind of app to be able to summarize long form YouTube videos and then create kind of custom summary to be able to summarize it in the way that you want.